Hey Joe, how are you?
I'm doing very well, man. Jeff, how you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Thank you for joining me on Indispensable Appraisers podcast.
Well, I'm glad to be here. Glad to see if we can have a little dialogue about what's been happening.
And I understand you're in New Orleans, which is a super cool place, so you must be cool.
It's the closest you can be to being in Europe without being in Europe is the way I always paint the picture. It's a beautiful city, beautiful music, beautiful food, and we really enjoy it when we do get over there. I'm about 40 minutes north of New Orleans, but close enough that we can pop in and out.
Nice, nice. I need to get back over there. Hey, first question out of the gate is in the valuation space, what are we winning at? What are we doing a good job at?
I think appraisers in our world, I think technology's really brought us forward. I think that's one of the areas that we're winning in. This is my 30th year celebrating in the profession, so I've been able to watch it go from sticky tape on photographs to digital photography. So I think we're winning a little bit on the technology side. There's some areas that could definitely use some improvement and kind of get you down sometime, but I think we're winning on some of the technology things.
Yeah, it's funny, the sticky tape things. How about microfiche? You remember
I do, unfortunately.
that?
It would tell you that, right?
You guys,
Yeah.
could you do residential? Did you have the rub-on arrows? Is that a
Yep.
residential thing? Okay.
Yep. Had to and run to the photo mat, man. Yeah. Love
That's
the,
right. That's funny. So, what is our greatest challenges from the valuation space?
one of the things is just maintaining our independence is a big thing. Um, I think there's a shortage of really qualified appraisers that really dig into the data. So I think that's some of our biggest challenges is just a lack of really qualified appraisers, which kind of contributes to the dialogue of a shortage of appraisers. But I don't think there's a huge shortage of appraisers. I think there is a shortage of just very good qualified appraisers. That's for sure.
And do you think that's been going on for a while or a slow decline or
I think there's been a lack of good mentorship coming into the profession, really since Dodd-Frank. It's just the incentive to bring people into the profession kind of got lost in all the appraisal management mix, and what happened with that. But I think it's kind of coming around now that people are kind of bringing mentorship back in. But it's tough. I mean, I'm not going to kid myself. It's tough to get good mentorship and do that quality appraisal. So it just creates that dialogue of appraiser shortages, especially when we get really busy. Of course, when things slow down, everybody's kind of scrambling for work. But when things are medium to really busy, it gets a little dicey, and that workload gets a little heavy. So um, that's definitely a challenge for sure.
is a shortage of mentorship? Is it that people coming that are interested in residential appraising, or is it more that once you train them, that AMCs won't allow them to inspect properties? You want to double down on that or double
Yeah.
click on that?
Well, I think that was one of the biggest things is when an order comes from a lender and it goes to an AMC, the AMC then broadcasts that out to appraisers, to single appraisers, right? Whereas if the lender was able to send it directly to an appraisal firm, then that supervisor appraiser could choose the appraiser that's most geographically competent for that assignment, or the type of property competent for that property. Unlike right now, that order comes out to, for example, my firm. Well, it comes in my name. So then I have to be the one that does the site visit rather than being able to, hey, I'm busy right now. I'm going to assign it to this appraiser that is also geographically competent to do that. So that's definitely been one of the reasons the number of appraisers that have been coming into the profession has slowed down. I think one of the other reasons is, just what's happening in the residential real estate appraisal profession world right now, especially when it comes to lending appraisals. That is changing pretty quickly to the dialogue of automated valuation, AVMs, data collectors, and so on. So as a new person that would be looking at this profession, I would say that it's going to make them pause to think, okay, what's the longevity of this profession? If I get into it today, here's Joe that's been in it 30 years. Could I get a lifetime of a profession out of it? If you're planning on doing just lender work, I would say that might be a challenge. We've pivoted a good bit since the slowdown after all the crazy market of COVID to do more private work. And so we've been really pivoting a good bit in doing more private work, which if you would target your audience to private work, I think you've got a long profession that you're looking at, because there's a lot of different needs for appraisals.
And kind of walk me through from your perspective, not that you would tell me this, but let's say I'm a 25-year-old Jeff and I give you a call. Hey, Joe, I'd love to work for you. Can you walk me through just your concerns of from beginning to end? Like, maybe it's I don't have time. Maybe Jeff's going to compete with me ultimately. I mean, what is your thought process if somebody calls you, they look really promising, they seem sharp, you really want to help them out? What are your internal challenges to get them to a finish line?
Yeah.
Walk me through that.
Yeah. I mean, I get that call, a good bit actually. And, in Louisiana, you're only allowed to have 3, what they would consider licensed or trainee appraisers at any given time. And so many times I've gotten that call and my slots are already full. I have been able to mentor probably 20 or 25 people
Wow.
into the appraisal profession over my career. And I'm always teaching, and I actually taught a class today to some agents. But I'm always willing to help other appraisers. I don't look at anybody as competitors. I feel like if we're going to get on the field and compete against each other, let's go. So we can compete, and there's plenty enough work out there to feel like you're not truly looking to compete to win or lose. You're really kind of competing in the same market just to move forward, in my opinion. So when I get that call, that's the first checkbox is, do I have a slot for you? My second discussion with that person is, have they truly looked at what it's going to take to become that appraiser, the process of it, right? It's a pretty big commitment. Even under the regulations of today, it's still a pretty big commitment that you're going to take on while you're taking on possibly another part-time job, while you're going through the process of a trainee working your way towards certification. If that checkbox checks off, the next box I check with them is, even after you've gotten that license or after you've gotten that certification, many lenders are not going to put you into their rotation as an independent appraiser until you've got 2 years of experience under your belt. So that's going to be another 2 years of kind of working your way through the system and learning how to get, work and garner clients. So if they can check those 3 boxes, then we're ready to talk about, okay, well, what's your background? And then trying to figure out if they would fit within my company. Or there's been many times I've gotten those calls and it might be somebody outside of my area. And in the past, and even today, I'm part of the Louisiana Real Estate Appraisers Coalition. And I can think of other appraisers in other regions and say, you might be a good fit for so-and-so here. Give them a call. And then, I'll call them and let them know somebody's calling. So that's kind of the dialogue I go through when somebody calls me about, looking to join the appraisal profession.
Okay, appreciate that. And on the AVM side of things, how does that, is that a topic that's changing? Like AVMs today, how does that impact the residential world today?
I think the banks over the years, I mean, honestly, Jeff, the first year I joined the profession, I started hearing appraisers are on their way out. Appraisers, there won't be a need for appraisers in another year. And that's been 29 years ago. So I keep hearing that. And every time they bring this product along, I think there's a niche for that product. But at the end of the day, the investors that are wanting to invest in mortgage-backed securities, they want some type of real valuation that looks at that property, that smells that property, that has been in that property. So they get some type of a risk feeling of what that property is about. The AVMs, it has to be a really low risk loan product that they're not really, concerned with the 100% value of that property or 90% value of that property. I think that product fits. I mean, I think many people that may be listening today have done a small home equity loan where they had a ton of equity in their house. And why do they need to go through the whole process of a full appraisal, somebody coming out to their house, all that, for them to borrow 50 grand, right? So I think there's a niche for that product, but I don't think the AVM is the threat to the appraisal profession, 100% threat to the appraisal profession. I think they've been trying, the GSEs have put in appraisal waivers. They've put in different products that try to address some of those situations. But even now, when you look at the number of appraisals that have been ordered versus the number that have gotten waivers, I think sometimes appraisers panic over that number. I've not seen a big drastic change in my market from appraisal waivers.
And on AMCs, typically I would assume that would be banks that are outsourcing the appraisal department to an AMC to handle the entire appraisal ordering process.
That's right. Yeah. So go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
What I was going to say was, prior to Dodd-Frank, everybody had independent relationships with your local banks and lenders, even into your regional and national banks. We had personal relationships with all those different things. Well, that flipped off overnight. And so when that appraisal management model came in, it did change the way business was done. But I think that that model has just gotten so abused and so off track that it has hurt the profession in a way that you don't have that personal relationship with your local banks like you used to. And when that AMC is in, it was designed to be that firewall in between the loan officer and the appraiser. Well, now some of those appraisal management companies have become appraisal firms. So that's really kind of tainted the market of what that firewall was supposed to be, to becoming truly, when you talk about competition, those are truly competition, competing against one another. When you start competing with that part of the market, you truly are competing win or lose, because they have the control of the relationship between the bank and them going forward. You don't. So yeah, I would say the appraisal management, some of them, we work for some of the appraisal management companies that I feel like are good working relationships. But it's been a bit of a challenge when they're no longer the firewall, but just another appraisal firm.
That makes sense. And so where do we go from here? What, if you could wave your magic wand, how do we make the valuation space improve looking forward?
I think one of the things is our GSEs have to get to the point that they really do understand that they're dealing with people, not just a loan number, and that it matters. This is some of the biggest investments that some of these people are going to make in their lifetime. That's one thing. The second thing is just better mentorship of people that are coming into the profession to understand the bigger picture of what's happening, of really learning the methodologies of appraising and digging into real life appraising, not just what the book tells you. So I think just mentorship would be a great way of improving the industry, and just some of these regulatory changes that need to be made in reference to the way AMCs operate, from a firewall to an appraisal firm having staff appraisers. I think the regulatory change on that would be a way to improve the industry.
Great. Any other topics we didn't cover that you'd like to discuss?
And Tampa. I mean, I'd like to get over to Tampa sometimes, but I think we've covered a good bit on our profession. I appreciate you reaching out and having a discussion with you.
Yeah, thanks for joining me today, and have a great day.
Yeah, man.
Thanks, Joe.